Hello everyone. Today we're going to be making a tutorial inside of Blender on how to build some ramps for Trackmania 2020. So if you haven't got Blender, just go ahead and download that from the web. It shouldn't take you too long and it's free. And then once you have that, just open up your Blender and you should start with a default cube like this. And once you get into this scene, we're just going to get you to do a couple of things quickly. So just follow my mouse over to this little white icon and go into units, the units tab, and change this metrics from meters or whatever it is to none. And then go up to here into this little drop down and you'll see where it says subdivisions. You can now change that up to 16. And then you'll have the same grid as me, which is the same grid size as the game, pretty much. So like once we get this cube, if I go ahead over to here in the side menu, you can open up transform and we have the dimensions of the cube. I'm going to change the X and the Y to 32. Yep. And you can see this is the size of your platform inside of the game, like your basic platform. So we'll just start off with this. I'm just going to grab this and move this over to here. So I'll just quickly tell you the shortcut keys. I have made a video on this earlier, but I'll just go over them real quick. If you press G on your keyboard, that will access the move tool. And you just tap right click to sort of snap it back or undo that. Then you've got R, which is rotate, same thing, right click out of it. And you've got S to scale. These are just handy things that, to keep in mind. I'll be using them a lot, right? So the other thing is, say if we access G and I move again, if I hold my scroll click, you see how these axes shows up, green, the red, and the blue, and that little white line that's going around, this will let me align my object to an axis. So it's on the green one right now, I let go of it, and now it's stuck on that line. And if you want to be able to move by increments, like snap it to the grid, just hold Control, and it will snap to increments on the grid. All right, so just keep that in mind because I'll be doing that a lot. All right, so we've got our first basic block, right? Now, once you've done that, and it's going to get you to hide it. So over here, just click that and we'll hide it. And we're going to add our first curve. So we'll go ahead up here. It says add, mesh, curve actually, go to curve. And we're going to add a path curve. Okay, don't worry about all these ones. These are from add-ons. We're not going to need them, just need the basic ones from Blender today. But if you do want all these, just go into the add-ons in the preferences and just type in curve and download everything that has curve in the name. That's pretty much what I did. But anyway, we're just going to add this path. Okay. So once we've got this path scene, I'm just going to rotate this at 90 degrees. And then I'm going to move it on line like that. Okay, now we've got this. Go into edit mode. So if you press tab on your keyboard, that will get you into edit and object mode. Okay, so I'm in edit mode. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this point and shift click this point and just delete them. Delete vertices. Okay, so now we've just got the 3 points. Then I'm going to go into my side view, which is being weird. Okay, here we go. And grab this first point. I'm going to drag this all the way to here, 32 meters. Then I'm going to drag it up 32 meters, grab this point, drag it underneath, and you can see how we've got our basic quarter pipe sort of curve already. Okay, so the curve that's inside the game for the quarter pipe, if I went ahead and grabbed this top point, you can see it has this little W width thing or whatever it is. If I went and moved this, you can see how it adjusts the curve. Yep. If I went and changed that to 2, that is the exact curve of the the quarter pipe inside the game. So for instance, if I just go ahead and go back into our object mode, so press tab, object mode, I'm going to bring back our cube. or our platform, I should say. And now click on the platform and then press tab again to go into edit mode for the platform. And now just tap Control R on your keyboard. And you can see if you move your mouse towards an edge, it'll bring up this little box. Just click it there. And it gives you this option after you click it once. If you right click, it'll snap it to the middle. And then you'll see down here in the bottom left, it gives you these few options. We're going to give this a few cuts just for the sake of this video. I'm just going to give it just 31 for now. It's the same as the grid. So that will give us 32 faces. And just click off and then go back into object mode. Okay. So with this selected, go over to this little tool my mouse is, modifier properties. I'm going to add a modifier called curve modifier. And then see where it says curve object, we're just going to add that to this NURB path. All right. And while we're here, because we've got this little problem of it not being on the axis here, the way to fix that quickly, I'll just take it off the curve. Right click this platform and you'll see set origin to 3D cursor. And the 3D cursor is this little thing that's already in the middle of the grid. And we're going to do that with the curve as well. So we're going to grab this curve and you can see how the origin is like 2 meters off from the 3D cursor. That is why we had that problem before. So if I just set that to the 3D cursor and now click on our box and add that to the path, you can see that's fixed. Now you can see how it's on the curve. And now while we're here, I'm going to explain the UV mapping a little bit. So this is the same size as the platform in the game, roughly. And say if I was to, let's just do that. Let's just go tab into edit mode. It brings us back to our original square sort of thing. And we're going to quickly UV map this. So if I click A on my keyboard, and that will highlight everything. And you can see this is our UV editor. If you can't see that up here in the top tabs, I'm in the UV editing tab. Just go ahead and click that. Your UV editor might be on the left side here. I've just moved it down to the bottom because I like it there. But anyway, same deal. So now we can see our box here. So if I click on my faces mode, which is these 3 little icons, go from edges, faces, and vertices. So I'm just going to go to faces mode. And you can see where if I select faces, it corresponds to where they were in here. Okay, but I want to make a new one. So a quick way to do it for a box like this is just do the top face, right? And you can press U on your keyboard, do a smart UV project, and then press OK. And that's already done what I want, all right? And we can do that for the bottom as well. And the way I'm doing this select, I select the first one, then control click the last one, and it will do the shortest path. And I'll just do the same thing, U, smart, OK. And you can do this for all faces. Now I'm going to show you another quick fix. See how we've got a full square here, and this is not really the same as the top face. And the reason why we have this issue is because when this was an original box and then I've scaled it down, you need to do something called apply transforms. So I'm just going to go back to my object mode. So I'm going to tab out to object mode. I'm going to click on up here, it says add object and go to apply and apply all transforms. Okay. And now if I go back into my edit mode and try this again, let's see if this fixes it. It does. And see how it gives it the right dimension. So we'll go ahead and do that with the rest of the faces. So press U, smart, and then we've got the sides, U, smart, right, and do this side too, U, smart, project. Okay, so now if I press A on the keyboard, you can see we've got it looking like this, which is perfect. Okay. Now we're going to give this a quick UV map. So I'm going to go into the shading tab up the top here, and I'm going to go into the default images on the game. They're easy to get, these default images. I've got them in another video. I might relink them in this video as well. But yeah, I'm just going to go into those images. Where are they? Image. Okay, so here's all the default images. And I'm just going to find something. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is give this a material. So new material. It gives me these two little nodes. And I'm just going to pick one of these. For instance, I'm just going to pick this one for now. All right, and add that into the base color. And if you can't see your image, it's because you're in probably the wrong tab. We'll just go up here and follow the mouse and change it to this viewport. And now you can see the image. All right. So what I want to go with UV mapping is, and the reason why I chose this image is to help you understand a bit of distorting and things like that. So I'm just going to go into UV editing tab again. Same thing, I have to change my viewport thing up here as well. Mine has this already set up in the background, but I can change the strength. Here, let me fix this real quick. Where is it? I'm going to go into my settings. Where are you? Now I can't find it for the life of me when I want something. Oh, it's because I'm in edit mode, if that makes sense. Okay, now there it is. And I can change. What? Shift. Why won't you cycle? There we go. Fixed it. All right, I just wanted to fix that so I can take this off. And then it's back to normal. All right, good. Sorry about that, guys. Might need to re-edit that out. We'll see. Anyway, we're back to where I want to be. You can see down here, this is our thing. All right, so I've go back into edit mode and I select all. You can see this is what's going on. And imagine if we wanted this picture to face the other way, we could just select these top faces, then select them down here, and then press R on your keyboard, and then just rotate it to the direction you want it to be in. Okay. Okay, and you can do that with all of them if you want, to face them whatever you want. So go back into your object mode. And now this is what I was going to say with distorting. So if we wanted, we could get this curve in a couple of different ways, like this ramp. So if I went to this little orange here where our attributes are, object properties, and this is going to be the scale for it here. So I could just scale this up until it ends up at our curve like this, but that isn't ideal because that's just stretched out our image, right? And even though it might look good here, that's fine. But when you go to join, say, this onto that original platform that we had with the original image on it, well, you're going to see this looking nice one, and then you're going to see this one next to it, and it's going to show you how deformed it is, right? And you don't really want deformed images. But say if we didn't use this texture at all, and you use something that was just all blue, maybe your ramp's just all blue, you're not going to notice any of the stretching or deforming. So UV mapping is going to be a lot easier for you in that case. So same with like if it was just all dirt, you're not going to really notice it. But if there was just dots, like say like a highway road that has the lines in it in the middle of the road, that would notice a lot. Imagine if those little lines were circles, you would notice the distortion even more. So depending on the type of texture that you're using, whether you're going to notice if it's going to deform at all, or you can get away with deforming it a little bit. So in this case, you're not going to get away with stretching it out that much. So I'm going to undo and go back to our original size. And the way else we can fix this, in a way, we're going to add an array modifier. So click on your platform thing and make sure you go into your modifiers tab, add modifier, and then add array. And we're going to see where my mouse is. Just click this little drop down and move it to first. So now it's on top. I'm going to change this from 1 to 0. And press tab, so it goes down to the next one, and change that to 1. And enter. And now it's going up. And you can see how we've got what we're after. But this is a lot longer than our desired ramp. So the way you have to do that is to pretty much cut it off. And I've also noticed I need to fix my curve a little bit. It's not the right thing. So just click on the curve if you've done the same thing as me. Then go to edit mode. I'm going to get these 2 points and I need to drag them in by this. Grab this top one and drag it down to 1 below. All right. Now go to object mode, click on your object, go into edit mode, and you can see it's still in this form because we haven't applied our modifiers. So we're going to do that now. So go into object mode and just go ahead and drop down, apply, and drop down, apply. Okay. So now when we go into edit mode, we'll have our shape. Okay. So you can see if I go to where our ramp is, which is on this line, there's not a line there. So we need to either add one, so and line it up as good as we can, and then just cut off the rest. Or we could go into your vertex mode, so your vertices, and you can see how we've got these two, and you go to X-ray. So if you follow the mouse up here and click this little box, it goes into X-ray mode so you can see through the object. And now if I highlight these two, it'll grab both this vertex and the one on the other side. It wouldn't have done that if you went in X-ray mode. And now if I just press G on the keyboard, which accesses the move, right? Then press G again, you can still move it, but you can see how it locks it to the edge, which is what we want. So now it's locked to the edge. We're just going to slide this down to where we want it, right? Which is roughly about there, and GG, and then roughly about there, okay? And then you can go in and get your OCD on a little bit. UV mapping is definitely the most boring part of object modeling and things like that. But I'm trying to make it so it's easiest as it can be. So you've got your lip cut where you want it to be. So make sure I'm in the side view. Go into faces option. I'm just going to click and drag all the way down to where we added that, and then delete these faces. Right. So now we have the exact quarter pipe that's in the game. You place this next to the one inside the game, it would be exactly aligned. All right. Beautiful. And now we have this hole in the top. So we're just going to alt click this edge. Go into edges mode for that. Alt click this edge and tap F on the keyboard and it will fill that hole. Get out of Y X-ray mode. Go back into faces mode. I'm going to select this face. Press U on the keyboard. UV map. And then just give that a nice correction there. That's fixed. All right. Now our image is, it's all done. It's perfect, right? Except now, because we've used this style of texture, you can see how it's cut it off halfway through, which is not ideal once again, because if you try to add on another flat piece or another piece to this, those pictures won't line up and it won't look very pretty. So this is, when it comes to adding textures to curves or images to curve geometry, this is what you have to deal with. There's no way around it. You can either stretch the image to fit the ramp, or you can tile the image until your ramp ends and cut it off, right? That's why it's ideal when making these type of ramps to choose the right texture. So if I go into, say, shading tab, and I go back to our default textures, and I pick something that's not going to have that effect. Let's try this road one and just swap that out. And you can see how that's not facing the right way, which is fine. I'm just going to go and select all these. Oop. Maybe I can just select all of them for this. Might be easier. Oop. Select A for all these down here too, and just rotate them all. Yeah, that worked. Good enough. All right, and now you can see with this type of texture, it doesn't matter where you cut it off. You're not going to have any problems, right? And you also have this face issue in here, which is why you can see that thicker line. I'll just go ahead and delete those. That'll fix that. Well, you can still see that these are two separate pieces. So if I press L on this piece, it'll just highlight the linked, everything that's linked, and because they're two separate pieces. All right. So now it's all UV mapped. It's all done. We can press A, select it all, press M on your keyboard, and say by distance. And this is going to merge all like vertexes that are placing on top of each other together. All right. So now if I get out of it, that line's gone. All right. It's all one piece. So if I press L, it's just one piece, and it's perfectly UV mapped for the game. So now the game needs, for export ready, you need to go over to this tab, go to UV maps, and now just label, change the name to base material. Oop, I've got caps lock on, take that off. Base material, make sure it's spelled exactly right. Then it's got a capital B and a capital M. And the game also asks for a second UV layer called a light map. So I'm going to just press this plus key, which makes a copy of the first one. And this also needs the label to be correct, and it's called light map, spelt like this. Okay, make sure you have it like that. So now, with light map, when it comes to the base material one, if I select A, see how all these, like this top right one is on top of the bottom one, like they're sharing the same space, which it doesn't affect. There's no issues with doing that. That's fine when it comes to the base material. But when it comes to the light map, you're not allowed to have overlapping like that. You're not allowed to do that. So every time you say you had 10 of these faces and they're all overlapping on top of each other, and you left it like this and add it into the game, you would get like 10 layers of like lighting on top of each other. So imagine you loaded it into the game like this, and it'd be whiter than normal. And then if you had more layers, it would get whiter every time you had another thing overlaying it. So it looks really, really ugly. So the way you're going to do that for the light map, you're just going to simply press U on your keyboard with it all selected, smart, and press OK. And it's going to give them all their own space. And it doesn't matter how the image looks. It doesn't have to be aligned like this one. It just needs to get off each other. So that's done. You can leave it like that, and that's going to work fine. And the last thing you need for the game is to make sure your material is labeled correctly, because when you export this, it needs to be the same name as what your mesh parameter settings will be. And I'm just going to label it, I don't know, road. That'll do. And now this object is ready for the game. It's perfectly ready for me to export as this object, which you can go ahead and do that. I suggest you make a folder called ramps or something like that, and then just go ahead and export as FBX. And then, yep, give it a name like, I don't know, something short, because later on when you're typing these out, you don't want to type out long names. Just call it something like R1 for like ramp 1 or something along those lines. You know what I mean? And I will just save it as R1 just for the sake of it. Okay. And over here in these settings here, you could turn a bunch of these off. So imagine you had 10 objects in the scene and you just want to export the one object in the scene. You'd have this highlighted, so selected objects only. So you just have this one ramp selected when you exported it, and it would only export that. In this case, I don't really need that. And if you didn't want to, if you had cameras and other things in the scene that you don't want it to pick up, then just have it on mesh and it'll only take the mesh. Okay. So if I export that, and you have your first object ready for going to the Nadio importer and dealing with the mesh parameters and stuff like that. But I've already done a video on that. So we're going to continue on now. All the hard and boring stuff is done of the ramp. We can get to the easier part. So now it's already done for us. We can just go into object mode, right? We're going to go and select our node path, right? Where is it? Edit. Here it is. See, where I've made a mistake is I should have duplicated it first. So I had an original copy. Let's see if I've got enough undos to go back before I yeah, see, yeah, there's one big flaw in this. So when it was still attached to the modifier, you know, before we got to applying the modifier section, what we should have done, just to remember this for future, go back into object mode, is to Shift D, which will duplicate it. And then just once you Shift D something, if you right click, it'll just snap back to its original location. So it is there. And now we're going to hide the original one. And now that original one's hidden, we've got that one for later. Okay, to keep working. And sorry I didn't do that first, but just keep that in mind. All right, so now you've got the duplicate. You can now go into the modifiers and apply them, and then work on your shape. Okay, and do the same thing as for add the lip cut and cut it off, because you're gonna have to do this multiple times. So imagine I've done that. We've already done that shape. So I'm just gonna go and delete that one, bring back our original. Okay, so now when I go into the node path, hit edit, we can make another one. So if I wanted to do this, say 2 times the curve size, you would just stretch out that to 2 times 32 in the grid, like I've done here. Go into object mode, select your ramp, and add a few more onto the array until it surpasses the curve, and do the same thing. So you would now duplicate this out to the side, hide the original, and then just apply these modifiers to the duplicate, right? So now you go into edit and do the exact same thing we did with that first one. So you just go in, add a loop cut, and yeah, move it to the location. In this case, it's that one line before the top. And you just do that for as many as you want, right? As big as you want. So now I've demonstrated that. It's undoing until I get back to my basic ramp. Yep. So now you know how to do all the quarter pipes in whatever sizes you want. And if you always keep it to like these 32 increments, then you can always join them up to any of the ramps inside the game really easily. You have no problems. So for the next set of ramps, all you need to do is we're going to object mode. We're going to grab our nerd path and we're just going to rotate this nerd path down 90 degrees like this. And then you can do the exact same thing as we did with the bigger one, with the quarter pipe ramps, with the flat curves. So I can go into my node path, edit, just make sure it's in the right place. For instance, this one needs to be, yeah, it's in the right place. All right, just make sure, yeah, perfect. And do the same thing. So you would go to edit mode on this. Oh, whoop, duplicate this out, hide the original, and apply the modifiers to the duplicate. Go into the edit mode now, and then find where you need to add a loop cut and cut it off. Yep. And then you can just apply that same method for this. So you've got your flat curve. All right. And then you do the same thing. Go into your curve, you edit, and if you want bigger and bigger flat curves, snap it to the grid. Let's get a 2x version of that. And then add more to the array, cut it off. And then you can do that for as big as you like. I've done this up to this big. I've got ramps made that are this big, so you can handle, yeah, the car could be hitting this corner at like 800 kilometers an hour, whatever it is, and it would be able to handle it. That's why I made curves this big. But just know that when you get curves this big, your geometry is going to start adding up. Like you're going to start getting a lot of polygons. Like if you follow my mouse up to this little icon here, no, not that one, the one next to it. You see where it says statistics, and you turn them on. Go to my object mode, and it can show you how many faces and triangles you're playing with. And you're gonna, that's the biggest menace of all this game, is trying to make things that are very low resolution. But when it comes to making curves and ramps, you have to add some pretty heavy resolution sometimes. So it's, especially when you're making a curve this big, if I go ahead and add all these on, it starts getting pretty dense. But I also want to show you something quickly, which I haven't explained. So on your curve itself, like on the node path, it has its own resolution. And this is why, if you see that, which is not very present, that is because the resolution of the actual curve, so click on the curve and you go down to this little green object tab, and you see the resolution is only on 12, very low resolution. So if I turn this all the way down, you can see it's just flattened out our ramp, and it's very unpleasant without resolution. See, because we're not keeping this curve, we're just using it as a path. Let's go ahead and crank this up. I'm going to crank it up to something like 1000. So it's just smooth as can be. And now all that error is gone. It's all perfectly clean. And yeah, same thing. So you've got your curve to where you want it to be. In this case, it's not where I want it to be. I would just move it until it's in line with where I do want it to be. That seems right. Yep. And then you click on this, duplicate it, same thing, hide the original, click on this and apply all those modifiers that are on it. All right. Apply. Loop cut it off. And now you can make as many ramps as you want. All the UV mapping is perfect for the whole ramp, except for the part where you're going to cut it off. Like I said earlier, this style of texture will notice. So when you join up this with another one exactly like this or whatever, you'll notice the cut. But if you use that other image, like I said, the default like road image or a dirt image, or even the ice images, you're not gonna notice the cut, right? So just make sure you choose the right textures and you're all good to go. So we've made our quarter pipes and we've got all our flat curves. Now, if you want to start getting a little more creative, I'm going to go ahead and take all these arrays back down to 2, change this curve size quickly, back down to like something reasonable. Oh, that can't be. Where am I? Almost. Back to our original size. Now we've got our flat curves and quarter pipes out of the way. I'm just going to show you something else we can do. We can go click on our curve. I'm going to duplicate the curve by Shift D and then right click so it's in its original location. And make one go up 90 degrees. Okay, so if I click on this, I can add another curve modifier and add it to the second curve. And now you can start getting some cool things. It's going up this one, but it's also going around that way. If you were to swap these around, you would get another cool effect, right? Now, but I don't want that effect. I want the other way. Oop. Okay. Now you can do cool things by, wait, let me just pick something, I'll show you. We go back, so that curve is gone. Now click on the curve, the original curve again. Instead of Shift D, we're going to Alt D, which is also duplicating it. Right click to put it back into location, do the same thing. But when you Alt D, whatever you do to this one or do to the other one, it affects the other one. So they're kind of like the same object instead of two separate ones. So now they're the same one. If I edit this, I can just sort of like click on this point and they're both going to go together. Pretty cool. All right. So click on our object, add that second curve modifier again, and we've got this. So now I can select edit mode, drag these two faces to wherever you want. So we go 2 times, 3 times, so let's say 4 times. And then same thing in this direction. How will this happen? Oh, I need to select this curve. There we go. 2, 3, 4. Just give you an idea on what you can do. So now we have this. We can add our array. And same thing. You just keep doing the same thing as what I showed you before. You just add on the array until it goes past the desired curve. And then you duplicate the curve if you like it. and then hide the original, apply the modifiers to the curve, and then go into edit mode, add a loop cut where you want it to end, right? And then cut off the rest. And then you could do the same thing and make as many of these as all different sizes from small to big. Yeah, this is just some random curve. But if I show you, what else was there? Yeah, so that's just another thing you can do, right? Yep. I'm just going to delete, go back a few times until we're back to our original sort of setup. Roughly around here. Okay, so we've made those couple of ramps. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these curves and do something new. So let's just hide this object that we made. All right, now we're going to go and add in a different curve. Let's add a Bezier curve. I'm going to turn this also in the 90 degrees, 5 more degrees. Ah, there we go. I'm going to press delete on the numpad so I can lock into it. Move this over. Actually, do that again quickly because I want to change the radius of it. Where are you? So we're just going to 90 degree turn that. Why do you keep doing that? Sorry, guys, I keep rushing into myself. So you got to change this first. This menu disappears and you can't get it back. It's quite annoying. I'm just going to give it a 16. Damn it. 16, type it in. And then I can just rotate it and move it to here. Cool. So now we've got a different curve. And we'll bring back our cube. Whoa, what's this? One of them can disappear. This one, whatever. Okay. So we have our object. And now we're going to add it to this curve. Okay. So it's done the same thing as earlier on. If I just go into the Bezier curve and set the origin to the 3D cursor, and now add it on, it adds it to the start. Doesn't look pleasant at the moment. But I can go to the Bezier curve, go to edit, and you can see if I just click this point, oh wait, just click all of them, rotate this, back to normal here, click this point, and I can play with some stuff now. So let's just drag this out of a couple of bit of distance. And maybe do something like that. Just add on a few of these so we can get an idea. And this is another way where you can just have a freestyle of making curves, right? So you can go in here, you can keep a snap to the grid if you want, or you can start getting crazy and doing whatever you like. And if you want to add another point, just press E, I think it is. Yep, to extrude a point out, add a second point. You can play with it like this. Click like this middle one. Oh wait, just the middle one. Yep. And you can see you get this tilt option, and you can tilt stuff and extrude more of them out, and etc. And eventually, if you get this to the last one and you align it to the grid and it just so it aligns to like one of these, then you will join it onto any of the ramps in the game. But then this is just like a freestyle way. Like you can go in here and obviously make this as clean as you want. And because you're twisting it now, another whole layer of geometry needs to be added for twisting, which is a shame, but that's the case. If you want smooth, I'm not doing a very good example of showing off smooth stuff right now, but this is just an example. Oh, not that many. Yeah, and then you can just go in there and adjust these as you like, as you see fit. This one. You can see how it's very jaggedy because it definitely needs more geometry. And the cool thing about the way that we've built all these ramps is that it's easy to add what you need to the original tile. So if I just said edit mode, object mode, hit this, edit mode, you've still got the original thing in here. So you can just click on the original, Alt R, and say if I add lines going this way, this is overkill. You don't really need this many. But let's just give it 31 by 31 for now. And now you'll see that a lot of areas in the twist will clean up. Oh, what did I just do? Piece is just too big. You can see my drift, right? And you could have done this cleaner by keeping everything snapping, always snapping stuff to the grid and changing like views to see what you're doing. But the only issue with making stuff like this is it's hard to test, right? You can't just throw your car on that and off you go. You're gonna have to do this exporting stuff. At least that most of it's done. But while we're here, when you make an array, this is going to be the same for all the ramps that we've made on all those curves. So when I click this object and I've applied all the, I duplicated it, I was happy with it or whatever. We applied the modifiers, right? You're going to have all those arrayed pieces. So if I select A, the base material will have all those overlapping over the top of each other, which is fine. It's going to be like every one of those tiles on top of each other. But if we go into your editing, you're going to have to make sure that when you add the light map layer, you press U on your keyboard, smart project the whole thing, and give just everything its own space. That's the most important part. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of weird lighting errors. See what I was saying earlier, because I have so many different tiles now. If you had them all lined up on top of each other like this, you would have had like, say there's 20 tiles there, you would have had 20 layers of like light on top of each other, and it just would have been white as hell. So that's that. I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys, mainly to get your basic ramps going. Another thing is, if you want to make anything like borders or anything like that, I suggest you do that at this stage. This little square here is going to be your template. So you just come to here. I'm going to go back down to 1. And you can just use this, right, as to, let me zoom in. And you could just grab these and these, E to extrude and give it some basic borders and things like that, and get creative, add loot carts, make it a little bit more cooler looking, and do whatever you want. And then you can go back to object mode and you can see that it's added it on. But I recommend, because you want to save as much resolution as you can, especially for the bigger ramps. When you make a border, just make it separate. So like select the faces you want, Shift D, so you duplicate the face, then snap back down, right click, and then right click it, and then press separate. Separate it from the selection. Don't worry about that for now. Object. It's now separated from the selection. We go back into edit mode, does that weird buggy thing. And now, the hell? What just happened? There it is. Just can't see it. Gotta hide that original cube. I want to hide the curve. And I want that radio back under one. And now you've just got the border to play with, right? And then just do the same thing. So now you can make a border however you want, as cool as you want, dress it up, give it some more resolution if you need be, and then you can add that on later. Right, so you can have two separate objects. So you can add the borders into a separate folder later on if you want to make your ramps look better, just to save resolution. So maybe you want to add a bunch of ramps in the game and you want to save up on resolution, you can just take the borders off. But maybe you just want it to look cool and you have enough space, then you can add borders to make your ramps look a bit cooler. And I guess that's all we need to say. Once you've got your initial template, then you can add it to any type of curve you like. So for instance, I could delete that curve and then go into any of these crazy curves, spirals. What's this? Logarithmic. Yeah, it's got turns and steps and weird things going on in it. I don't know what this is doing. But yeah, it doesn't matter what curve you choose. That was not the right curve to choose. I should probably end the video. But yeah, you can find different types of curves and curve profiles. Let's try this. What's this? Flower. What does that look like? I don't know. That's not going to work probably either. Not quite. But yeah, just experiment. Play with different curves and different things. Like you can get cool like spiraling curves and stuff like that. I just couldn't find it. See? Do all sorts of weird things with curves. Do on the z-axis, nothing. Seems like the y-axis is the go for that particular curve. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that at there, guys, and hope you guys learned some stuff. Have some fun building some new ramps. All right, guys. See ya. Dun, dun.